Hello and welcome to Elemental Hardware Enrichment. My name is Aiden and today we're going to be building a wooden Bluetooth speaker. Before we get started with building, let's go ahead and talk about the supplies that we're going to need for this project. So for this project, you're going to need a damp rag, a bottle of glue, sandpaper, painter's tape, and a plastic tray for any of your hardware parts. Now that we've introduced all of our supplies, let's go ahead and talk about the tools that we're going to need for this project. So I have my toolkit right here. I'm going to go ahead and open it up and take out the tools that I need. So for this project, I'm going to need a Phillips head screwdriver, needle nose pliers, and I'm also going to need a 5/8 wrench. Along with that, I'm going to need my screwdriver handle. And with my screwdriver handle, I'm going to need a couple of bits. So the first bit I'm going to be taking out will be in this red bit holder, and you're going to look for the spot that's marked AD. That's for our adapter bit. So we're going to find our adapter bit and go ahead and pull it out. You can make sure that it's the correct bit by checking that one side is a hexagon and the other side is a square with a little BB sticking out. So we can go ahead and place the adapter bit hexagon side down right into our screwdriver handle. Next, we're going to pull out another bit, and that's going to be one of our socket bits. For this, we're going to need our 3/8 bit. So that's going to be the fourth largest bit in this little socket bit holder. Go ahead and pull it out and double check that it's marked 3/8. Once you've checked that, you can go ahead and place it onto your screwdriver handle. You're going to look for the side with the small square opening and place that right over the adapter bit to attach it to the screwdriver handle. The last thing that you're going to need is going to be your precision flathead screwdriver. Make sure it's the largest precision flathead that you have in your kit. Now that we have all of our tools introduced, let's go ahead and close up the toolkit and we'll go ahead and talk about what we're going to find inside our box. So to open up our box, we're going to be using our precision flathead screwdriver and we're going to run the tip of the screwdriver over the tape where the two box flaps meet. Be a little bit careful with this precision screwdriver. It's a little bit sharp and you don't want to accidentally cut your fingers or something, so just be careful. We're going to go ahead and slide this across the tape to split it open, and then you can also go ahead and split open the sides. Once you've got that done, you can go ahead and open up the box and we'll talk about what's going to be inside. So the first thing we're going to be taking out is our packing paper. The packing paper, you want to make sure that there's no small parts wrapped up in it, so just double check that before you get it out of your way. All right, we've got our packing paper out of the way, so let's go ahead and talk about the wood pieces we're going to find inside our box. The first pieces we're going to take out look like this, and these are going to be the short sides. We are then going to take out this piece. It's a rectangle piece with 4 holes drilled at each corner, and one side has this inset around a rounded over rectangle hole. You'll also see the Elemental Hardware logo here at the top. This is going to be our back panel. Next, we're going to be taking out 2 more pieces, and they look a lot like our short sides. They look like this, and they're exactly the same. These are going to be the long sides. The last wood piece we're going to be taking out looks like this. It's another rectangle piece, and you'll see that it has these 2 circles cut into it. This is going to be the face of our speaker. Now that we've gotten all of our wood pieces out, let's go ahead and talk about the hardware and other things we're going to find inside our box. The first thing we're going to take out will be this bag of Poly-fil. Next, we're going to take out 2 small cardboard boxes, and these are going to contain our speakers. Next, you're going to take out this bag, and this will have your power supply. And now finally, you're going to remove the last bag, and this is going to be your hardware bag. So let's go ahead and get this box out of our way and talk about the different pieces of hardware we're going to use for this project. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the bag and talk about each piece one by one. The first thing we're going to take out will be this plastic panel. You'll notice it has 2 holes here near the center and 1 hole around each corner. The next thing we'll take out is this small white square. This will be our double-sided tape. Next, we're going to take out this plastic bag. Inside this anti-static plastic is our Bluetooth board. The Bluetooth board is a little bit fragile, so make sure you're careful with it and go ahead and set it down. Next, we're going to take out our on-off switch. We'll go ahead and place that into our tray. The next thing we're going to take out is this small piece, and this is going to be our panel mount jack. This is a DC 12 volt panel mount jack. We also have this bag of hardware with 3 different colored bags, and each of these are going to be containing different size screws that we're going to use to construct our Bluetooth speaker. The last things we're going to take out of our bag are going to be the different wires that we're going to use to wire up our speaker. The first wire we're going to take out is going to be this flat red wire, and this will have one exposed and soldered wire on one side and a crimped end on the other. This is going to be our power wire. Next, we're going to be taking out this wire here, and this is really kind of a combination of a few different wires. On one side, we have a barrel plug, and then there's a connected red and black wire. The red wire has an exposed wire at the end, and the black wire has a crimped end. This is going to be our pigtail. Next, we have 2 pairs of speaker wires. Each speaker wire has one side with crimped ends and the other side with exposed wires. And each speaker wire also has one red wire and one black wire. And that will become important later on when we wire up our speakers. Now that we've introduced all of our hardware, we can get this bag out of our way and we can get started building. So the first step of this process is going to be to wire up our speakers with our speaker wires. So let's go ahead and open up the speaker boxes, and then we'll talk about how to wire them. To open up the boxes, you're going to be using your precision flathead screwdriver, and similar to what we did with the project box, we're going to run the edge of the precision screwdriver down the tape to split the box open. But be careful, you don't want to accidentally damage your speakers while you're doing this. Once you've split the tape on both boxes, you can go ahead and pry the boxes open. Once you've got the boxes open, go ahead and remove your speakers. Your speakers are going to be wrapped up in these little plastic bags, so go ahead and take the speaker out of the bag, and then you can get the box and the bag out of your way. Once you have your speakers removed from the box and the plastic, let's go ahead and talk about the different parts of the speaker that we're going to be working with today. So this is going to be our speaker face. This is how the sound is going to come out of the speakers. And we also want to take note of the terminals on the top of the speakers. So you'll see this little white panel with 2 metal terminals sticking off of it. And each speaker is going to have a terminal just like that. There's one positive terminal and one negative terminal. And that's going to be really important to note when we begin wiring up our speakers. Okay, let's go ahead and start wiring up our speakers. So remember, we want to locate the terminals on our speakers and determine which terminal is plus and which terminal is minus. Or another way to say that, which one is our positive terminal and which one is our negative terminal. Once we've determined that, we're going to pick up our first pair of speaker wires. So our red wire is always going to be our positive wire, and that will attach to the positive terminal. Vice versa, our black wire is always going to be our negative wire, and that will attach to our negative terminal. So I'm going to start with this terminal here. I'm going to locate my positive terminal by finding the plus, and I'm going to place the crimped end of my red positive wire over the positive plus terminal on my speaker. I'm then going to rock the crimped end back and forth while applying pressure to slide it onto that terminal. Once you've got it all the way on there, it should look something like this, and then you can go ahead and move on to wiring your black negative wire to your minus negative terminal. Just like we did before, we're placing the wire over that terminal, and we're rocking it back and forth, applying pressure until it snaps into place. Once we've got our first speaker wired up, we can go ahead and do the exact same thing with our next speaker. So I'm going to pick up my next set of speaker wires. I'm going to locate my my red positive wire and locate my plus positive terminal. Just like I did before, I'm going to place this crimped end over that terminal, and I'm going to rock it back and forth to attach it to the terminal. Once I've got it completely on there, I'm going to do the exact same thing with my black negative wire to attach it to my negative terminal. All right, I've got both of my wires secured to my speakers, and now I'm ready to move on to the next step. For this next step, we're going to be mounting our speakers onto our faceplate. So we're going to go ahead and pick up our faceplate, and remember how I mentioned before, one side has these rounded over edges, and the other side has flat edges with pre-drilled holes around each circle. So we're going to place this onto our desk so that the side with the pre-drilled holes is facing up towards the ceiling. We're then going to orient our speakers so that the speaker face fits through the hole, and the holes around the speakers line up with the pre-drilled holes on our faceplate. We want to make sure that our terminals with our speaker wires are both facing in the same direction and both towards one of the long sides of the faceplate. Once we have our speakers placed, we're going to go ahead and attach them to the faceplate using wood screws. So we're going to open up this hardware bag, and we're going to be locating our blue hardware bag. That's going to be the bag with this little blue dot to let you know that it's the right bag. Now that I've found my blue hardware bag, I'm going to open it up and dump out my screws. Now I can go ahead and begin setting one screw into each of the pre-drilled holes using my fingers. Once you've got a screw set into each hole, you're going to be using your Phillips head screwdriver to screw those screws down until they're as tight as you can get them. Once you've got one speaker in, go ahead and screw down the screws on the other speaker. Alright, once you have all your screws tightened all the way down, give your speakers a little jiggle to make sure they're not going to move around. If your speakers do move around, make sure to tighten your screws down a little bit more. You want to make sure that your speakers are nice and tight, otherwise when you play music later on, the speakers are going to rattle and make a really ugly noise, so we just want to avoid that by tightening them down as much as we can. Now that we've attached the speakers to the faceplate, we're ready to move on to the next step, which is going to be to build our box. Okay, we're now ready to begin constructing the box for our speaker. So for that, we're going to need the long and short sides for our speaker. Now if you take a look at these long and short side pieces, you'll notice that one side is completely flat and the other side has these mitered or slanted edges and a dado at the top and bottom. One side has a dado that's a 1/2 inch long and the other side has a dado that's 3/4 inches. So it's really important that when we line these pieces up, we line them all up with the 1/2 inch dado all on the same side and the 3/4 inch dado all on the same side as well. And you'll see what I mean by that in just a second. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin lining these pieces up in alternating order. We're going to start with a long piece, and then a short piece, and then another long piece, and then a short piece. So for this step, you're going to need kind of a lot of room, so let's go ahead and adjust our workstation to make sure that we have plenty of room to line these pieces up. Once you've made some room on your workstation, you can begin lining up your pieces. So we're going to start with a long side piece. Again, I'm going to double check for that larger dado, the 3/4 inch one, and the 1/2 inch dado will be up here. So I'm going to make sure that the 3/4 inch dado is down facing towards me, and then I do that for all of my pieces. So I've placed my long side piece. Now I'm going to place a short side piece. Again, I'm checking for that longer dado and making sure that that's oriented towards me. Then I'm going to place another long side piece. This is my 3/4 inch dado, so we'll flip it around so that it's facing towards me. And then I'm going to place my final short side piece. Again, check for that longer 3/4 inch dado and make sure that it's oriented towards you. Once you have all of your pieces in alternating order, double check one last time to make sure that all of your 3/4 inch dados are on the same side. If you do this step incorrectly and you build your box, your other pieces won't fit in later on. So it's really important that you have these lined up correctly. Once you've double checked that they're lined up correctly, go ahead and flip each piece over so that the flat side is facing up. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to begin to attach our pieces using our painter's tape. It's really important that these pieces are lined up properly, so in order to ensure that, we're going to be using a straight edge. One thing you can use as a straight edge is the back panel for your speaker. So we're going to go ahead and place that between two pieces, and we're going to push them up against it to ensure that they're completely straight. Once we've got them pushed up against it, we're going to rip off 3 pieces of tape about 3 or 4 inches long. Now that we've got our 3 pieces of tape, we're going to place 2 pieces of tape, one at the top and one at the bottom, both going horizontally, and then we'll place one down the middle going vertically to create an uppercase I shape. So a really good way to get a nice tight seal is to start on one side, stick it down, and then kind of pull the other side across as you tape it. That way you're ensuring you get a nice tight seal. We're going to do the exact same thing with this bottom piece of tape. Attach it, pull it tight, and tape it off. Next, we're going to place our final piece going right up the middle to create our uppercase I shape. Now we're going to work our way down the line to attach the rest of the pieces together. Once you have all of your pieces taped together, you're going to carefully flip the whole thing over. For this next step, we're going to begin placing glue onto the slanted or mitered edges of our box so that we can fold it together to form the box. Now let's go ahead and find our glue. We're going to remove the red cap and place it into our tray so that we don't lose it. And we're going to be placing glue onto all of these slanted or mitered edges so that we can fold this up to make our box. This box is only going to be held together with glue, so it's really important that you use enough glue so that the box doesn't fall apart. So let's go ahead and place our glue now. Once you've got glue onto all of the slanted edges, go ahead and spread that glue out evenly with your finger. Once you're done spreading the glue, go ahead and wipe up your finger and wipe up any glue that may have spilled onto your work surface. Next, we're going to tear off 3 pieces of tape to prepare for our next step. These pieces of tape are going to be about 3 or 4 inches long, just like the ones we ripped off earlier. All right, once you have your 3 pieces of tape ready to go, you can begin to fold up your box. As you fold it up, you're going to lightly press the pieces together to kind of squeeze the glue out and continue to fold it up to form that box. Once you reach the last corner, you're going to make sure that that corner is nice and lined up before you tape it off. You want to make sure that this corner is lined up perfectly flush, and then we're going to take our first piece of tape, we're going to lay it over the top, double check that we're lined up, hold our pieces together, and tape them off tightly. Next, we'll do the same thing here at the top. Make sure it's lined up, hold it together, and tape it off tightly. Then you can wipe up any glue down the middle and place one piece of tape going vertically down the middle to make your uppercase I shape. Now that you've got your box all taped up, you're going to want to check for any glue that may be on your work surface. And then you're going to begin to wipe up the excess glue inside your box. It's really important that you focus on any of the glue that's at these corners inside your dados. And one really easy way to get that glue out of there is by using your screwdriver along with your rag. So what we're going to do is we're going to place the rag over the tip of the screwdriver and push it into the corners to wipe that glue out. If one part of your rag gets messy, go ahead and find a clean spot and do the same thing at the next corner. Once you've got one side done, go ahead and flip the box around and do the same thing over again. Once you've cleaned out all your corners, go ahead and just double check for any other glue that may be spilled out inside your box. Be sure to check on both sides. All right, we've got our box all cleaned up, so now we're ready to place our faceplate into the box to help it square while it dries. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have the 3/4 inch dado on our box facing up. So if you go ahead and look inside our box, this side is our larger 3/4 inch side, and this side is our smaller 1/2 inch side. So we want to lay the box down so that that 3/4 inch side is facing up towards the ceiling. We're then going to be placing glue along this ledge here all the way around the box. So let's go ahead and do that now. The best way to do that is to place the tip of your glue bottle right up against this wall and squeeze the glue out as you work your way around. All right, we've got the glue in there, so let's go ahead and place our speakers. We're going to turn the faceplate over so that the speaker faces are facing up. Make sure to move your speaker wires out of the way and go ahead and place this down into your box. It's really important that you place this flat so that one side doesn't stick up as you lay it in there. If one side's kind of tipping in, go ahead and pull it out and readjust it. Once you've got it lined up, go ahead and press it down into your box. Once you've got it set in there, you're going to go ahead and set this off to the side with the speaker faces up to dry. While we're waiting for that to dry, we can go ahead and start wiring up our on-off switch and our panel jack. For this next step, we're going to begin to wire up our on-off switch. So I have my on-off switch here in my tray. You'll notice on one side there's the switch along with a nut and the on-off plate, and the other side has these 2 screws that are going to serve as our terminals. Before we start working with the screws, let's go ahead and remove this nut and take off the on-off plate. Once you've loosened the nut enough, you're going to remove it and place it into your tray. We're going to need it later, so don't lose it. You can then remove the on-off plate and place that into your tray as well. Once you've done that, there should be one nut remaining on the on-off switch. Go ahead and tighten that one down as much as you can. Once you've done that, you can take your 5/8 wrench and give it one little turn to just make sure it's nice and tight. Next, you're going to flip your on-off switch around to start looking at these 2 screws. These screws are going to serve as our terminals. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use our Phillips head screwdriver to loosen these screws about 3/4 of the way. You don't want to take them all the way out because you don't want to accidentally lose them, but just loosen them about 3/4 of the way and then stop. So just about there, and then you're going to stop. And then you can flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. Once you have both screws all the way loosened, we're going to go ahead and start working with a couple of our wires. So I'm going to place this down on my work surface, and the first thing I'm going to pick up is going to be my power wire. Remember, the power wire is this red wire. It has the exposed and soldered end on one side and a crimped end on the other. For this step, we're going to be working with the exposed wire on this side. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up our needle nose pliers and we're going to use these to bend this exposed wire into a hook. So you're going to use the very tip of your pliers to grab the very tip of that wire. You're going to squeeze it together and then wrap the wire around your pliers to form a hook. Once you're done, you should have a hook that looks something like this. We're going to use that hook to attach the wire to our on-off switch. So you're going to attach it to one of these terminals. It doesn't matter which one, just go ahead and pick one and attach it. So you're going to start by hooking it onto the terminal. You're going to hold it in place with your fingers and then go ahead and start screwing down the screw to attach the wire to that terminal. And you're going to screw this down as tight as you can get it. Once you've got it as tight as it'll go, give the wire a little tug to make sure it's not going to come off, and we can go ahead and start wiring up the other terminal. So for the other terminal, we're going to need our pigtail. Remember, our pigtail is this with our barrel plug on one side, a red wire with an exposed wire on the end, and a black wire with a crimped end. For this step, we're going to be working with the red wire with the exposed wire on the end. Just like we did before, we're going to use our needle nose pliers to bend this wire into a hook. Be a little bit careful doing this. This wire is a lot thinner than the other wire and you don't want to accidentally damage it. So go ahead and grab it with your needle nose and start to bend it around to form it into that hook. Once you've got your hook, you can go ahead and attach that hook to the other terminal. Once you've got it on there, go ahead and hold it in place with your fingers and tighten that screw down until it's as tight as you can get it. Once you've got it on there, give it a little tug to make sure it's not going to come off. Make sure you don't pull too hard. You don't want to accidentally break the wire. And when you're finished, it'll look something like this. And you can go ahead and move on to wiring up your panel jack. For this next step, we're going to begin to wire up our 12-volt DC panel mount jack, or panel jack for short. So go ahead and look in your tray for your panel jack. The panel jack has two sides. One side has this opening, and the other side has these 3 prongs sticking out that are going to serve as our terminals. Before we start working with the terminals, we're going to go ahead and flip it around and remove the nut on the open side. So you should be able to remove it with your fingers. If you can't, you can use your 3/8 socket and go ahead and remove it that way. Once you've got it loosened, go ahead and pull it off. And again, you don't want to lose this, so go ahead and place it in your tray. We're then going to flip the panel jack around. If you take a look at the other side, you'll see that there are these 3 prongs sticking out. You want to hold this facing towards you like this so that the prongs form a U. When you do that, the prong on your right is going to be your positive terminal. The prong on the bottom will be your negative terminal, and the other prong won't be anything at all. You don't need to worry about that one. We're just focused on the positive terminal and the negative terminal. So for our positive terminal, we're going to be attaching the crimped end from our power wire that's attached to our on-off switch. Similar to what we did with our speakers, we're going to line this up with the terminal, rock it back and forth while applying pressure until it snaps on. Once you've got it snapped on, you're going to start working with your negative terminal. So we're going to pick up the black wire attached to our pigtail, and we're going to be attaching the crimped end from our black wire on our pigtail to the negative terminal on our panel jack. Remember, if you hold it towards you as if it's a U shape, the right terminal will be positive, the bottom terminal will be negative. So we're going to be attaching this black wire, the negative wire, to our negative terminal. Once it snaps on, you're all wired up and you're ready to mount this into your plastic panel and begin to attach it to your speaker. The next step is going to be to mount our panel jack and on-off switch into our plastic panel so we can begin to attach them to our speaker. So your plastic panel will look like this. They come in 3 different colors, red, yellow, or blue. I happen to get a yellow one, so we're going to rock with that. There are 6 holes on the plastic panel, 1 at each corner, a bigger one here at the top, and the largest hole is going to be here at the bottom. So we're going to start working with that large hole, and we're going to place our on-off switch through that hole from the back so that the switch part is facing out the front. Once we've done that, we're going to go ahead and replace the on-off panel, the on-off plate. If you take a look at the plate on the off side, there's this little notch sticking up that lines up with this notch in our on-off switch. So I'm going to flip this around so that the on-off switch is parallel to the short side of my panel, and then I'm going to place the on-off plate right over the top of my switch. During this whole time, I'm holding this in place with my off hand so that it doesn't move around. Once I've got the on-off plate on there, I can pick up the nut from the previous step, and I'm going to return that onto the on-off switch. Once I've placed it over the top, I'm going to tighten it down finger tight. It's very important that you make sure that the nut goes on straight or else it won't tighten down properly. So if you're having trouble getting it on straight one way, go ahead and flip it around the other way to see if that helps. Once you've got it on nice and tight with your fingers, you're going to continue to hold this in place with your off hand like that, and you're going to pick up your 5/8 wrench to tighten it down the rest of the way. So just give it a few turns with your wrench. You don't want to over tighten it and, risk damaging the on-off switch, but it should be tight enough that you can't easily move it back and forth from the back. Once you're done, you're going to start to mount your panel jack into this plastic panel. So again, from the back side of the panel, we're going to place the panel jack through so that the open end of the panel jack is coming out the same side as our switch. We're going to be holding it in place with our off hand, and then we're going to replace the nut from the previous step to attach it into place. Go ahead and line that nut up and start to tighten it down with your fingers. Once you've got it as tight as you can with your fingers, you're going to continue to hold the panel from the back, hold the panel jack from the back, and you're going to tighten it down the rest of the way with your 3/8 socket. Again, just like the on-off switch, you don't want to over tighten it and risk breaking anything, but just tighten it down enough that it's not going to easily move around. When you're finished, you should have something that looks like this. Now we're ready to mount our plastic panel into the back panel of our speaker. For this next step, we're going to be mounting our plastic panel into the back panel for our speaker. So if you remember from before, one side of the back panel is flat with 4 holes around each corner, and the other side has this inset along with the Elemental Hardware logo. We're going to be mounting our plastic panel into this inset on the back panel. So what we're going to do is we're going to place the back panel right across the top of our box like this, and then we're going to slowly lower our back panel with our on-off switch and panel jack over that inset. It should line up perfectly just like that. Once that's done, you're going to open up your red hardware bag. The red hardware bag is the smallest one, and inside are 4 screws. We're going to go ahead and open up that bag and dump the screws into our tray. We're going to be placing 1 screw into each of the holes around the plastic panel using our fingers. Once that's done, you're going to use your Phillips head screwdriver to tighten those screws down as tight as you can. Once you've got it securely attached, it will look like this, and you can move it off to the side for the next step. The next step will be to wire up our Bluetooth board to our speakers so we can finish off our box and start playing some music. All right, now we're ready to start wiring our Bluetooth board to our speaker wires attached to our speakers. So what we're going to do is we're going to tip our box down like this so that our speaker wires are hanging out the front. We're then going to open up the anti-static bag that has our Bluetooth board inside. Again, like I said earlier, make sure to be careful with this because the Bluetooth board is fragile. So you're going to find the little rip tab here at the top and rip the anti-static bag open and carefully remove your Bluetooth board. Now, if you take a look at the Bluetooth board, there are going to be 4 terminals here at the front. Each terminal is marked to let you know whether it's the right terminal or the left terminal, as well as whether it's positive or negative. So here, this is the left terminal. This is the L+, so it's our left positive. And this is our L-, so it's our left negative. And then on the other side, we have our right terminal. We have R+ here for our right positive terminal, and R- here for our right negative terminal. So we're going to be wiring one set of speaker wires into each set of terminals, and we want to make sure that we're wiring the positive wire into the positive terminal and the negative wire into the negative terminal. Before we can do that, we're going to go ahead and use our precision flathead screwdriver to open up these terminals. The way you're going to do that is you're going to place your precision flathead into the screw here at the top and rotate counterclockwise until the terminals open up. We're going to go ahead and check to make sure our terminals are open, and then we can go ahead and begin to place the exposed ends of our speaker wires into our terminals. So I'm going to be starting with my right terminal, and I'm going to be placing these speaker wires into the right terminal. So I'm going to flip this around so that it's facing towards my wires. I'm going to start with my positive wire, and I'm going to be placing that into the R+ positive terminal. Once I've got that in there, I'm going to hold it in place with my hand, place my precision screwdriver, and rotate clockwise until it's completely closed and I can't rotate any further. Once that terminal is closed, I'll go ahead and place my negative black wire into my R- negative terminal. Just like I did before, I'm going to hold the wire in place and tighten down the screw using my precision flathead screwdriver. When I can't tighten it any further, I'm going to give the wires a little tug to make sure they're secured and move on to wiring up my next terminals. So again, I'm going to start with my positive red wire. And on this side, the positive and negative are flipped. So this is my positive terminal and this is my negative terminal. So I'm going to start with this red positive wire and insert it into the positive terminal. I'm then going to hold it in place and go ahead and tighten that screw down to close the terminal. Once that's done, I'll go ahead and place my my black negative wire into my L- negative terminal. And once again, place my screwdriver in and rotate clockwise to tighten it down. Once I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and mount my Bluetooth board into my box. For that, I'm going to need my double-sided tape. So I'm going to start by removing one side of the double-sided tape. Once you remove that side, you're going to be placing the double-sided tape onto the back of your Bluetooth board. Go ahead and press it on, and then you're going to go ahead and remove the other side of the double-sided tape. We're then going to be placing this into our box on the opposite wall from our speaker wires. So I'm going to place it this way, and I want it closer to the bottom so that my wires aren't sticking out the box, and I'm just going to press it against the wall there so that it sits inside the box. Now that I've got my Bluetooth board wired to my speakers, I can go ahead and attach my barrel plug into my Bluetooth board, place my polyfill, attach my back panel, and get ready to listen to some music. So the next step is going to be to attach the barrel plug from our pigtail onto our Bluetooth board. So I'm going to go ahead and place my back panel here on top of my speaker box, and I'm going to locate the barrel plug outlet here on the side of my Bluetooth board. And I'm just going to go ahead and plug this barrel plug right into that outlet. It's not going to fit all the way in, but you'll know it's secure if you just give it a little tug and it doesn't come out. Before we can place our back panel, we're going to put polyfill into the back of our speaker box. The reason that we place polyfill in there is to fill up all this empty space and stop our sounds from reverberating around inside our speaker box when we play music. That way we're going to get a much fuller sound out of our speakers. So we can go ahead and open up our bag of polyfill and remove it from the bag. And then we can begin to spread it out with our hands. Once you've got it nice and spread out, go ahead and set it into the box and begin to fill up as much empty space as possible. Once you've got it set into your box, you can go ahead and place your back panel over the top so that it fits into your box. Now the last step is going to be to secure the back panel to the box using our last remaining screws. For this, we're going to be using our yellow dot bag. We're going to open up the bag and dump the screws out into our tray. Next, we're going to place one screw into each of the pre-drilled holes along the back panel. Once you've got your screws placed, you can go ahead and use your Phillips head screwdriver to tighten them down. All right, we've got our back panel attached, so the last step is going to be to remove the tape, get this painted, and then we can set it up and start playing some music. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the tape, get this painted, and I'll be right back. All right, I got my speaker all painted. I decided to just go with the simple yellow and blue pattern, nothing too crazy because I was really excited to test my speaker out and start playing some music. So let me show you how to get your speaker set up so that you can play your music at home. What we're going to do is we're going to need our power supply, so let's go ahead and remove this zip tie and then we can get started. Once we've got that off, we're going to go ahead and plug this side of the power adapter into the panel jack on the back of our speaker. Next, we're going to plug this side into an outlet. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and flip the switch and we should hear a sound to indicate that the speaker is turned on and that it's working. Awesome, so we know that our speaker is working, so now let's go ahead and connect it to a mobile device so we can start listening to some music. So how you're going to do that is you're going to take out your device. It could be a phone, a tablet, a laptop, Chromebook, whatever you have at home that you like to listen to music on. You're going to go ahead and open that up and open up the settings. Once you've opened the settings, you're going to go into Bluetooth. Make sure Bluetooth is turned on and you're going to look for other devices here at the bottom. The speaker should show up once your device finds it, and it will be labeled as BT speaker. So go ahead and click on that so that you can connect. Once you click on that, it'll take a couple seconds to connect, and you should hear a sound indicate, there we go, we've got a connection. So now we can go ahead and choose some of our favorite music to rock out to. So I've got a good song here, let's go ahead and try it out. Awesome, the speaker is working great, it sounds really good, so I'm going to take this home, jam out to some of my favorite music, and I hope you guys can enjoy yours at home too. Anyway, my name is Aiden here at Elemental Hardware Enrichment. I really appreciate you guys stopping by to build this with me today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next one.